Good morning. We are live today at Trips and Ships Luxury Travel. I'm Angela Hughes, the luxury travel entrepreneur, and I am here today with one of my favorites, Carlos Ramirez from Quark Expeditions. And we're here to talk about the Arctic and the Antarctic and which destination is right for you. So I'll let my guest, Carlos, introduce yourself. He's all bundled up and ready to take us to cold places. So.
Well, good morning for everyone on this call and on our stream. So thank you, Angela, for having me today. My name is Carlos Ramirez, and I'm the business development manager for Quark Expedition in the southern region of the United States. And I've been with Quark almost 2 years. Before this, I spent 26 lovely years with most of the major cruise lines. So 5 years with Norwegian, 20 with the Royal brands, and I've done every size of ship. But I got to tell you that my favorite time and my favorite part of my career has been these last 2 years in the adventure community and, working for Quark Expeditions. Every day is an expedition for us. And it's I'm hoping that I can bring some of this magic to you today in this presentation.
Okay, tell us real quick, what's your favorite thing about this? Because you came from like kind of just normal cruising. How come you love like the expedition so much?
So what happens with travel and the more experience you have in travel and the more you've traveled, you tend to go from larger ships to smaller, more quaint, more once in a lifetime type of experiences. And so like a typical traveler, my career has gone that way. And fastest growing by just sheer percentages, fastest growing market in the industry is the expedition market. And so it was just a great opportunity for me to join Quark Expeditions, and the experiences are unlike any other trip that I've taken. I've been to Alaska at least 4 times in multiple ways, whether it's interior Alaska or the Inside Passage, and I've gone to Victoria, all types of areas in Alaska, but I've never experienced anything like this, like the experience that you would get on a Quark Expedition.
Okay, so one thing I want to tell you guys who are viewing today is if you want to ask questions, go ahead and put them in the comment box. You don't need to do that silly StreamYard request for your name in the comments and everything. Just go ahead and put them in the comments. We can see them, and Carlos is going to be answering those questions as we go. So he's got a little presentation for us today full of visuals that will make you so excited that you're going to want to head out to the polar extremities. Is it extremities? Extremes?
Polar regions, yeah, polar extremities, polar regions. So,
teacher, I should know that. So,
it's funny when I tell everyone, when before you go to space travel or deep sea exploration, you have to go to one of the polar regions. I mean, that's normally the regions of the world, so.
Right.
Go ahead and share my screen here.
Okay, I'm turning down the sound here. So we have multiple things. It's kind of hard to run if you've never watched the background of how we run these shows live. It's more chaotic than you think. So
absolutely,
it's so hard to screen.
So do you see my screen here?
Yes. So let's get that added here. Okay, here we go.
Yes. Alrighty, perfect. So my name is Carlos Ramirez, like I stated. This is one of my recent trips that I took to the Arctic, specifically to Spitsbergen. Let me go through some of why Quark Expeditions. So there's going to be a lot of companies out there that will tell you that they visit these regions, and none have the experience of only visiting the polar extremities or the polar regions like Quark Expeditions. So only polar for the last 30 years. We have only done on polar expeditions. That's the first thing. Top of the world, bottom of the world, Arctic and Antarctic is all we focus on.
Okay.
We have the most experienced team of in the polar regions. Anybody that you come across at Quark Expeditions has had some type of expedition travel. We are not coerced to travel, but we get the opportunity. We're very fortunate to get the opportunity to travel every year on some form of expedition. And so anybody you come across will have incredible experience, and they have firsthand experience of these regions. And so we do more and we go deeper than any other company because of the experience. We offer more off the ship experiences, and I'll show you some of that. We certainly immerse you in the nature. We deliver the most innovative itineraries. We take a true explorer mentality. When we create our itineraries, we send a recon team to explore these areas, and we come back with the recon, and then we set up an itinerary. Most companies are saying, well, we normally go to the Western Caribbean, so we're going to just follow what all the other companies are doing. With our company, we tend to try to, break through the ice, no pun intended, and find you really incredible itineraries.
And I think that's really what makes you guys different as opposed to like some of these regular cruise lines like Viking and some of these big ships that are trying to merge into that market now is you guys are really a specialist in that area and just focus right in on the Arctic and so forth.
That is so true. There's some really great companies, and Viking's one that's coming into the market. Very fine company, and nothing bad to say about them. But at the end of the day, these are large companies that have been in mass market cruising per se, and now are coming into the expedition market, where Quark from the beginning has been an expedition company. We've purposely stayed small. Because of that reason, we want to be the expert in the polar regions. And staying small means that we keep our ships small. All of our vessels are under 199 passengers, so we range from around roughly 124 to 199, and that is key for the polar regions. If you're going to travel to the polar regions, a ship that's under 199 will give you the most options when it comes to the physical landings. So itineraries into the polar regions are not your typical itineraries, and I'll go over some of the itineraries, but basically from day 2 to day 9, we're going to be in this vicinity, and we're playing it by reconnaissance, by ice charts, by what we've seen as far as previous itinerary, what we've seen as far as wildlife, where does the ship, can we physically take the ship up this area? So there's a lot of factors, but it's always about risk and reward. But because we have the experience, we are able to go a little bit further.
Right.
And then lastly,
even in Bhutan watching today, so.
And then, one of the key things is that we are one of the leaders in when it comes to health and safety on board as well. So we've had an incredible safety program on board and a great impeccable record. And so on the safety side, we are cognizant of everything that's going on in this world right now. And so we continue to monitor everything and making sure that we operate a safe vessel. And at the end of the day, I think if I can model something special, is the fact that our expedition leaders, most who lead our expedition team, have at least 200 expeditions under their belt. And so when you have a team of leaders that have the most experience, you tend to have a very authentic product. Right. And most of our team members are ornithologists, marine biologists, glaciologists, and every type of scientist you can imagine under the earth.
Oh, I love that. Right. Okay, tell us more.
So a little bit about the Arctic. So the Arctic is a pretty vast land, and so we divide it into certain several areas. So Nunavut, which is basically the Canadian high Arctic, this region was recently separated from mainland Canada. So it's still part of Canada, but it became kind of incorporated in 1999, and that's the Canadian high Arctic. What I love about this specific itinerary is that you're going to be able to fly into Toronto and then get up to Nunavut and explore with the ease of just flying into Toronto. Otherwise, you can fly into Iceland, and Reykjavik is the main airport that would get you over to southern Greenland, western Greenland, as well as eastern Greenland as part of the exploration we do there. You can also fly up to Norway, and from Norway you would go and fly to the archipelago of Svalbard, which Svalbard is comprised of different islands, Spitsbergen being the largest one. And so we mainly explore the island of Spitsbergen. Spitsbergen is also called the realm of the polar bears, so there's more polar bears and people actually living on the island. So the high likelihood of seeing polar bears is certainly in Spitsbergen, but you certainly get them in Greenland as well as the Canadian high Arctic. Twice a year, we also take folks up to the North Pole. We were actually the first company to take clients to the geographical North Pole, to 90 degrees north, top of the world. And we do that in a Russian nuclear power icebreaker. So it doesn't get more unique than that. 2 trips a year. And up to last year, we had completed our 60-second successful trip up to the North Pole.
Okay.
Other than that, you have the Russian high Arctic, which these are lands that were recently discovered. Some of these lands date back as early as the 1910, 1914, around that time. And it's comprised of areas like Franz Josef Land, Novaya Zemlya, and Zervanaya Zemlya. So these areas here tend to be very completely away from everything. So talk about, being in a very unique land, very virgin land where nobody's visited. These are some of the newest itineraries that we've introduced as part of our portfolio of itineraries that we offer. And so Quark allows you to, experience these areas by land, air, and sea. This is an example of our Greenland Adventure program where we will have a land package that will be included that will allow you to take a camping trip and camp in this area where you're going to be foraging for your own food. And this gentleman that runs this camp, he's a musician, he's a chef, he does a little bit of everything, and it's a pretty unique swath of different activities that you can experience here.
Right.
Of course, I guess the best actor, and the one thing that you want to see in the Arctic is of course the polar bears. And so here's a mom with her cub. And because we're coming in early season, so normally beginning of May is when we start our season. The highest likelihood of finding polar bears is when you have that fast moving ice. So the fast moving ice is in front of a glacier. It's a giant ice sheet where the bears love being on those ice sheets because there's a lot of seal holes, and so they tend to,
Right.
for seals, most of their life is the main food source. And so sometimes we'll find a bear on a sheet of ice. You can either explore and watch the bear from a Zodiac at a safe distance, or from the ship. Sometimes we'll just gently nudge the ship onto the ice and then just watch this polar bear hunt. And
okay, so real quick, let me interrupt you because I
Sure.
think our viewers might not know what a zodiac is. Can you define that for them?
So, like African safaris, you use a jeep to get around, the different areas of Africa. So a Zodiac is our means of transportation. So you get off the vessel and the Zodiac. It's a high strength rubber kind of dinghy, but it's a 10 it actually accommodates up to 15 people. But we don't fill her up
Right.
with as many people. So anywhere from 7 to 8 people, along with your expedition leader on the vessel. And so we have normally 20 to 30 Zodiac on each vessel, where we'll use to take you around. And whether you're making a physical landing or you're doing a Zodiac exploration, meaning going around and seeing some glaciers, seeing cliffs where maybe we have some bird population where you can't see from land, and we need that Zodiac to kind of cruise through the water and then observe. So high strength, they're pretty much ice proof. Some of our expedition leaders, instead of kind of dodging ice, sometimes they'll go right over the ice chunks in the water just to kind of make it fun. But at the end of the day, that's your main means of transportation is the Zodiac boat. And I'll show you a picture in a minute here, and that's the Zodiac boat here. Talk about timing. Thank you, Angela.
Mm-hmm.
So this is actually one of my personal photos. As you can see, the sheer size of this glacier and how deep we got in there. But believe it or not, we're still really far away from that glacier. But it just shows you just the actual size of how these glaciers look, and they just, the beautiful colors and, different blues. And this was a, somewhat cloudy day, but you can still see how beautiful the ice looked. And during this time, because things were so frozen, we weren't running into the issue of like calving ice. We only had like one calving situation, meaning the calving means when a giant piece of ice just naturally breaks off into the water, and it just sounds like thunder going off in the distance, and you see this just giant splash. Here, because things are so frozen still, we were able to get you a little closer, but still keeping you within a safe distance.
And I feel like those are the two things that everybody wants to see. Well, now the three things: the northern lights that you've got right there, that ice dropping, and then those polar bears. And that's
absolutely
that's the reason why we're going on this trip.
Yeah, I think that one more for me, and I would add that one, and this one's a little more difficult to see, but it's the narwhal whales. The whales with the giant tusks in the front, almost like your unicorn. The modern day unicorn. That's
right.
I've never seen a narwhal, and probably that's on my bucket list of animals to see. In my lifetime here.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you said you mentioned Northern Lights.
Right.
I talked about being in Alaska several times, and we saw some Northern Lights because of Alaska's, city lights and areas where there's more cities in these areas. Sometimes you get what we call a lot of light pollution from the city lights, so the Northern Lights are not as great, and they don't shine as much as they do in Greenland. Greenland is the ultimate place to see the northern lights. And sometimes we'll set up a wake up call and make a wake up call like around 1 in the morning. Our expedition leader will have a very quiet and short announcement, folks. If you're ready to see the spectacular display of northern lights, please put on your parkas, can cut them out on deck. And sometimes we will even run Zodiac explorations onto land where you just basically, it's just a stark sky with all these stars and a beautiful display of the aurora borealis. Let me give you an example of some of the itineraries that I run. So I talked about the ease of getting to Toronto. This is one of the Canadian high Arctic itineraries that we're running now. And as you can see here, this is going to be on our new vessel, Ultramarine. And I'll talk about Ultramarine because we are building a vessel that will launch next year. And so this particular itinerary, it's very easy to get to. You fly into Toronto, which is a quick flight, for pretty much anywhere in the United States. And then from there, we put you in, I guess some people can call it a bubble or some, you're basically going to be just with only our guests from Toronto. And then we charter an airplane, a jet plane that gets you to Resolute. And once you get to the city of Resolute, then you will then board the vessel. And then from there, then you will explore the Canadian high Arctic, as you can see here. So
I've got a question for you, and this is kind of a crazy but not crazy question. And I know we're not starting the sailing until May, so things can change. But are you COVID testing before you go there? I feel like somebody's going to ask that.
Yeah, so we're going to have all of the protocols in place from testing prior to the sailing to the onboard sanitation programs to areas of the vessel that we might need for, if we have to either quarantine a guest or observe a guest in an observation area. And so we're going to take all the precautions that all of the major companies are taking to make sure that we are COVID free, B, that everybody is tested, and then C, if somebody kind of slips through, that we have the proper protocol to take care of that guest. Quark normally carries one ship doctor, and we also have one doctor that basically is on call. We have this program basically that it's almost like a barter system where these doctors come on our product to work for maybe 2 to 3 voyages. And so we'll have one doctor that remains on the ship and then one doctor that gets off with you on every landing. And the landing is basically whenever we get to a place that we want to explore, that's what we call a landing, physically getting onto land or onto ice. And that doctor's there with you all the time. So we've been taking precautions. And the other thing too is you talk about social distancing. This is a product that we've been social distancing.
For like 2,000 years.
Yeah, for 30 years we have been doing that because when you look at any of our groups, taking a hike or landing, everybody's is further apart. We can physically distance up to the point where we have one expedition staff member, one of these scientists for every 7 guests on an average on every vessel. So if we wanted to scale it down to every 1-to-7 ratio, we can scale it down to 1-to-7. And once you get on land, everybody, we set up this giant perimeter and we set up everybody into 4 groups. So you have 4 groups of explorers. You have the fast explorers or the charging group that goes the furthest, the fastest. And, it's for the hardcore hiker. We have a medium fast, we have a medium, and then a slow group that would go out. And so again, just because it is an expedition product, it doesn't mean that we have the group for you. I tell everybody, if you're able to sit on the ledge of your bathtub and swing your leg over the ledge of a bathtub, you can get in and out of our Zodiacs. Okay.
So really, you could take an older population with that. If they can take a bath, they can really go on this. Yeah.
Correct. And so so I'll give you an example of the age group on my voyage into the Arctic. So we had the youngest being 12 years old, and then the oldest being 81. But I got to tell you that the 81-year-old was in better shape than I was, carrying 2 giant cameras with giant,
400 millimeter lens.
I mean, giant lenses with him. Great spirit. He was kind of like, the guy that was the charger. That's the guy I'm gonna be when I turn 80. But on my charging group, when I went out, that I honestly thought that I was just going to die of heat because I was wearing this parka, which we provide for you. And I had to just strip down because we were going so fast and so far out. But there was a lady that was 70 years old next to me that was just, out there keeping up with everybody. And so again, on certain days you might want to go to the slow group. On certain days you might want to go to the medium fast or fast group. Every day when you debark or you make anything, you can choose a group that you can go out with, and that's the lovely part of this product.
You make this so hard for me because I always think like, oh, Antarctica is going to be like my first choice of the two polars. And then I watch that presentation with you every time and I'm like, of the Arctic. And I'm like, I think I'm kind of an Arctic club. I mean, I just want, it's so hard. I have to do both. So
it's so incredible because they're both, alike, but they're so different. And so that's a great question that people ask. So which one of the two should I take? And it all depends on, what your interest is. Certainly Antarctica is, the most popular destination. People tend to, want to visit the seventh continent, which they have that on their bucket list. Certainly there's a lot of great wildlife, and the wildlife just sits on your lap in Antarctica. But the Arctic is just so desolate, and it's basically the thrill of finding that wildlife, finally finding that wildlife.
yeah.
Incredible birds, and I didn't think that I would come back, and become an ornithologist, but I came back and I was like, wow, now I have a better respect for birds and just watching birds in their natural habitat, because we went during a season where these little ostriches, these tiny little black and white birds, were in mating season. So we had 500,000 of them just flying over. And then so you're watching all this, and then all of a sudden this little tiny snow bunting comes across the picture, and you can hear it because the snow bunting sings completely different. So these birds up here, they're arguing, who gets who. And then down here you have this beautiful snow bunting coming across the picture, and you hear the beautiful sound. But then at the same time, the birds upstairs, they're not fighting. They're warning each other because there's an Arctic fox climbing up the mountain, trying to get into their holes. And obviously this is, just a circle of nature where somebody needs to feed. And, that's, in this particular case, the Arctic fox was chasing those birds.
Right.
Pretty incredible experience when it comes to both regions. I suggest that you at least do both once in your lifetime, because honestly speaking, it doesn't get any more pure and authentic than this type of trip.
Oh, I'm so excited. Okay.
So Antarctica, here is, some beautiful king penguins, and some of the places that we visit, you're going to see, penguins as many as these as you can see here. And then in certain cases, you might see 500,000, like in South Georgia Island, all sitting at your footsteps. You kneel down and they come and they peck on your knees, or they come and peck on your camera, and they're very curious, and at the same time very funny because they're constantly playing and floating around. And so let me show you what we do in Antarctica. So this is the southern tip of South America, mainly Argentina and Chile. In most cases, you're going to be flying into Buenos Aires, Argentina. So good, options when it comes to flights into Buenos Aires. And then from Buenos Aires, you have the two choices. You can fly down to Ushuaia. In certain cases, we will have certain itineraries that we offer from Buenos Aires, but in most cases, you're going to be flying down to Ushuaia. And Ushuaia is basically the jumping point where you're going to board the ship, and you're either going to sail across to Stanley and then South Georgia Island and down to the peninsula, or we might take an express route. We will take you straight across from Ushuaia down to the Antarctic Peninsula. One of the keys for Antarctica is the fact that you have to cross the Drake Passage. And so the Drake Passage is the most rough body of water in the world. I think it's, probably the roughest at times, but most people will say, well, I am going to brave the Drake and I'm going to do the crossing. And then we have other options for people that get seasick. I certainly am going to lean for option B, and I'll tell you about option B. But certainly, crossing the Drake Passage can take you about 36 hours of crossing the Drake Passage, which can be the Drake Lake, as flat as a lake, or the Drake Shake. Most people like to do it because that's kind of like they earn their stripes, and then we get you down to the peninsula. So a lot of large companies that are coming into this region are saying, yeah, we're taking you down to Antarctica, but no company gives you Antarctica by foot. You're physically landing on Antarctica. You're going to be able to pull up that flag and say, I physically touch ground in Antarctica. And then some clients want to go at far south at the Antarctic Circle. Um, Most of these regions also include a lot of research stations. So we do have visit, like for example, the most popular one is the post office. It's part of the United Kingdom's research station. Depending on how many people are coming across on that day, we don't have multiple ships landing, and so it's always on a request basis that we can visit these research stations, and it all depends on the type of research that they're doing as well. And you do get that, some of that experience of some of the research that's being done down there. Specifically, there's a lot of research being done on, invasive species. We've been seeing some new crabs that are coming down as far south into the Antarctica because the waters are a little bit warmer. So there's a lot of, climate change and a lot of climate change research that's being done in Antarctica as well as the Arctic. But for those that don't want to cross the Drake Passage and feel that, you know what, it might be too rough, or maybe I want to get down there faster, we do offer a fly cruise program where we fly you from Santiago, Chile, or you would fly into Santiago, Chile, and then from Chile you would fly down to Punta Arenas, Chile, and in Punta Arenas you were going to board a private jet. We have two of them that will take you over to King George Island, which is here in the center, as you can see here, King George Island. Ship sails down by itself. We fly you over about a two and a half hour flight down to King George. You basically bypass the Drake. You're on the other side of the rougher water, and then you start your adventure on the other side of the Drake, and you go and experience the peninsula.
I'm not gonna lie, I feel like that would be my first choice.
This could be the best choice for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
Bypass, but I think that part of the thrill is saying you made it through the Drake Passage. But if you're short on time, this is the best option for you.
Okay.
And this is just as much of an expedition as anything else. To be honest with you, that we still run into factors like storms, like fog,
Yeah.
rough air, and so certainly it doesn't mean that it's going to be I'm going to get down there. It's going to be easier.
Right.
We've been running this operation for roughly 8 years now. And I think we've had maybe 3 or 4 instances where we had to either delay or one time that we had to cancel, which is we tried 3 times and we just couldn't get down there. But you are covered if that happens, but it's very rare for things to happen, for this type of event to happen. As you can see here, this is some of the areas we might explore. Zodiacs by the water. These are photos that my regional director Beth took in her trip last year. And as you can see here, the importance of the Zodiacs is, you can get as close to the water because it's great to see the penguins on land, but it's also lovely to see them just kind of jump through the water and fishing for krill and getting back out, and the courtship and, the males, watching the males guard the egg while the females go hunt. So talk about a
just to clarify, we're getting
incredible
wildlife on Antarctica versus Arctic. Arctic is a little bit harder search for Antarctica. It's just kind of rolling.
Yeah. So in Antarctica, the wildlife just sits on your lap.
Okay.
If I had to give you a guarantee as far as wildlife, the guarantee will be in Antarctica. The wildlife is going to be everywhere.
Okay.
So third or fourth day, you're going to see another group of penguins. You're going to be like, wow, here comes the penguins again. But it's pretty incredible because you just take it for granted. They just sit on your lap. They're physically everywhere.
Right.
Marine mammals, seals, the penguins, some great birding as well with the albatross, in Antarctica. But certainly that's one of the biggest keys is that the wildlife just sits on your lap. As you can see, this leopard seal here just taking a quick nap after they dined.
Right.
Here's another leopard seal here, and we run into them everywhere in Antarctica. There's another one.
Real quick, like you're talking, this is a minor thing, but you're talking about like the jackets and everything. People have to come prepared with obviously warm clothes, but I'm a Floridian now, so. But you are providing all of the polar gear for them, and that
is correct. So this is a great picture you can see here. So the parka I'm wearing is basically I think that the do it all. This jacket is basically provided by Quark. It is a keeper. You get to keep it. So you can fold it into a little ball like this. Make sure that you have this much space in your luggage to bring it back with you. It's a great show and tell for your family. The parka is a multi-layer parka. It does have an inner shell, an inner jacket that you can wear by itself.
Okay.
And this is waterproof. And so we provide this jacket for you to keep. We also have the specialty designed life vests that are really thin. They only inflate when you hit the water, or
Okay.
if you pull the cord. They have a light and everything that goes with it. We supply that for you on every debarkation or every landing or every Zodiac cruise, and you can see it there around people's neck. They're very light, and so
Mhm.
they really don't bother you. You know, if you're taking pictures, if you're reaching for your camera or changing lenses.
Right.
So we provide that for you. Otherwise, you dress in layers. You may have an inner thin layer of leggings with some waterproof pants, which are mandatory for you to have a set of waterproof pants. Now they could be ski pants, if you own them, or they can be just standard waterproof pants. It all depends on how cold you get. But since you're dressing in layers, I always tell folks that just wear these layers. And now the new materials that are coming for some of this gear, it's dry fit. So if you tend to sweat, it'll dry faster. And then when you bring them back onto the ship, depending on the vessel you're in, we have in the bathroom, we have these bars that are heated, the water heater. The water comes through these heated bars, and then you can just hang your clothes there to dry for the next morning. So I basically took one set of waterproof pants, one set of leggings, and then one set of like an undershirt. And I basically wore that the entire time. So some
Okay.
that go skiing, you probably own a pair of pants that you can wear as well as under gear. But then, to be honest with you, I went the Amazon route 2 weeks out. I went out to Amazon. I looked at the most highly rated gear that I can layer in. I hit click, and about 3 or 4 days later, I had all my gear in place. So waterproof gloves, waterproof pants, under layers, and then something to cover your head, and then something to cover your face, which is very important because of on the Zodiac you can get a little windburn and it could get a little frigid out. But very simple gear. You don't have to go out. I mean, certainly if you like brands like the popular brands like Arc'teryx or North Face or whatever, you can go out and buy that gear. But certainly you don't have to drop thousands of dollars in order to go on this type of trip.
Right.
I
Mhm.
I basically went through a few $100s, and it was more than enough for me.
Right.
Again, more seals, as you can see here in Antarctica. That's what you come for. A lot of this wildlife, as you can see here, how close they get and how different the experiences are in different areas. In this particular case, you can see these curious penguins. The leopardfish seal definitely hunts for penguins, but these penguins are almost playing hide and seek with this leopard seal, as you can see here. And then, of course, there's just a massive ice. So whether you're in Antarctica or the Arctic, you're going to just see these, incredible ice sheets and ice shelves, as you can see here. Just different. They're all completely different. It's just a work of art. One of the things that I think that you have to invest in, if you're not a photographer, certainly a really good camera. Although my iPhone did a really good job in up close pictures, and I think that the iPhone. Oh, but if you're looking to take some of these further out type pictures and more distance pictures, certainly you will want to invest in a good camera as well as a good set of binoculars.
Okay, so you do have to bring your own binoculars. Like I just came from
Oh,
Africa last week, and I was like, they have the binoculars there, but you
so
do
we
want to.
we have them on board. So we have spotting scopes as well that you can use on board. We have an open bridge policy, so you can see this is the Ocean Adventure, and on the bridge of the Ocean Adventure, which we allow guests on the bridge at any given moment. You can go up on the bridge and visit the captain and the first mates. Going through whether it's icy waters or basically just trying to maneuver the ship, whatever the case is. We'll have binoculars all over the place that you can use. But certainly, there's nothing better than having your own set of binoculars that you can use, and certainly that's one of the things that you should invest in, for this trip and any other trip. It's always good to have a good set.
I know. I feel like that's on my Christmas list this year, and I'm not even like
Yes.
an outdoorsy girl, really. Although I'm
No,
like,
they
I'm
honestly they come in handy.
from the Serengeti, so I guess I'm outdoorsy now.
Yeah,
I,
absolutely. I mean, listen, it's whether it's you're spying on your neighbors, whatever the case is, it's always good to have a good set. I mean, coming back from this trip, I have now I'm looking at nature a little different, and so here in South Florida, I get a lot of different blue jays in my area, and so it's always nice to have a good set of binoculars and and watch the birds. So you come back and you have this incredible respect and an incredible uh, view of nature that you've never had before. You know, what we hope that what we do when you come on one of these trips, that you come back with, you know, more inspired and become more of a nature lover and become more sustainable when it comes to everybody's practice. So at the end of the day, our goal is to make everybody a polar ambassador when they come back. So some of the activities that we do, for example, in Antarctica, we offer stand-up paddleboarding. These are suits that we provide. They're waterproof suits. As you can see here, here's another view of the Zodiac. So this is our means of transportation, as you
That
can see
was so
here.
incredibly amazing.
And so most companies that are out there, their Zodiac driver is somebody that works on deck, and basically it's just a guy that's driving a Zodiac. He might know a little bit, and you know he might have, you know, he might even have to speak the language. And so all of our Zodiac drivers are the actual scientists that are on board. And so you, as soon as you hit that Zodiac, that you get off the vessel, you're already receiving that enrichment from this Zodiac operator, who can be an ornithologist, a glaciologist. In this particular case, this is like one of our glaciologists. And he's obviously spending a little more time on the water before he lands, because he's an ice lover, no pun intended, but he does love ice. This is an actual picture of a humpback that my boss took, and this is her over here. You're gonna see the little arrow. That's my boss, and she took this actual picture of this humpback, basically, you know, dining for krill, and you can see the sheer size of that mouth and how close we were. And that's, again, you're not going to get this type of experience if you're on a larger vessel. It only happens with our types of programs, and in this particular case, it's even more incredible because of the fact that these are our kayakers that are experiencing this. So this is a kayak excursion or a kayak adventure option. And then this is me doing my famous polar plunge. So once the sailing, they will make an announcement and they say, all right, anybody that wants to come and jump into the water, into
Yeah.
the waters, you
Yeah.
can come out and then jump with us. And so we'll make the announcement. On my particular trip, there was only 40 people out of 120 some odd people that jumped into the water. And then best part that we provide all these pictures. Any picture that's taken by our photographers on board are provided to you complimentary and a Dropbox links, and then you can download them at your leisure. So that's mine. I was wearing actually a GoPro harness, and so I do have a video for that as well. So really quick, the Antarctic Express, we do have the Fly the Drake, as I stated. As you can see here, you get down to King George Island. And so again, in Antarctica, we have them as little as 8 days and up to 23 days. So how do we get around in these areas? So we have this incredible fleet of vessels. Ultramarine will be our newest and most state-of-the-art vessel that's being built right now in Split, Croatia. She will feature two twin helicopters with twin helipads. Helicopters will be twin engine. So more options when it comes to the helicopter options. That's going to be an all-suite, all-balcony vessel. We have an all-suite, all-balcony vessel in the World Explorer that was launched about a year and a half ago. Brand new ship as well. And then some of our more traditional vessels will be the Ocean Adventure at 128 passengers, and then the Ocean Diamond at 189 passengers. And then if you want to get really authentic and really, you know, get an incredible feel, then just imagine cutting through 9.2 feet of thick ice all the way up to the North Pole, and that's just 50 years of victory. But a little on Ultramarine. Ultramarine will feature 20 rapid deploying Zodiacs on the water level in the back of the vessel, and then we're going to have twin Airbus helicopters. They're going to be HC-145s, very high-end helicopters, 2 pilots, twin engines. And so we've just signed the contract for our helicopter with our helicopter company. So we're really excited to be announcing more on the helicopter options. But what we will be doing is some incredible, you know, options on the helicopter. Certainly, the food is incredible on board. I can't deny that. Some incredible meals on board. Of course, we are in it for the adventure. So some of the included adventure options include heli touring. We include the trekking and the different groups, you know, age, well, not so much age groups, but just physical, you know, groups that we have, whether it's a slow, medium, fast, or charging group. Zodiac exploration is important, and it's included. That polar plunge is also included. Some of the options that we have available at a small cost would be stand-up paddleboarding, We have camping in the snow in Antarctica.
No, I have to say I'm really shocked that the paddle boarding is not included. That seems like such a low cost. You
It
know.
is low. It is low cost, but we have so much equipment on the vessel, we can't provide it complimentary for everyone. It's just it's the only way that we can are able to have it for some guests. And stand-up paddleboard, it's a minimal fee, and it's a one-time excursion that's available. The some of the other options are like the paddling and then kayaking. So kayaking is on the left, and that's more for your extensive kayaker that can pedal and steer with your feet. And then the paddle excursion is for more of a novice that's just looking to do it once and then just get that experience. So both are available.
Okay.
Some of the paid adventure options when it comes to the helicopters will be these ice sheet experience. We're going to land on the top of these ice sheets, as well as snowshoeing in certain areas. We're also going to offer some heli mountain biking, and then eventually we're gonna offer also heli skiing that's going to be available. And so the helicopters now will allow us to take guests where we've never visited before, up to 95% of the places where we can operate a helicopter. The helicopter's just going to take you even further. These helicopters, the reason that we're going with such a high-end helicopter is because the noise pollution is a little lighter on these more state-of-the-art helicopters. And
Mhm.
been operating helicopters for roughly 30 years, specifically in the North Pole. We use a lot of helicopters, and we've had an impeccable safety record when it comes to helicopters. But nothing compares to the units that we will be using in the Airbus units. So it's pretty exciting that we're going to be able to offer all these different options when it comes to the helicopters.
Okay.
So we also want you to explore with peace of mind. So when it comes to, the cleanliness, the ships, we have 4 pillars of health and safety, and it's all around, the cleanliness of the vessel, the health of the staff, health of our fellow passengers, as well as a healthy expedition environment. We certainly have heard that there hasn't been one case in Antarctica when it comes to COVID. And so we want to keep it that way. So we want to be sure that the places we visit, we leave as nice as they were prior to us arriving.
Right.
And with that, I'll open it up to any questions that you have.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so if you guys have got questions out there, let us know. We're going to go back to full screen here, really quick. Let's talk for a minute. Pricing for people, if this is something that they want to do. I mean, usually people are planning a year out on this. I mean, right now it's hard to say because people aren't planning like they normally do. But what can somebody
So
estimate saving if this is a life goal? Because for some people it might be like, oh, they've got to save for 2 years to make this a reality.
that's a great question. And so, on an average, I've seen the price points for Antarctica around the $11,000 range, and then for the Arctic around 10,000.
Per
That's
person.
curve.
Mhm.
That's the middle of the average. On certain itineraries, we get down as low as $5,000 or $6,000. On certain itineraries, like our North Pole itineraries, you can spend up to $60,000 per person,
Yeah.
depending on how much you want to do. But again, it's not out of the realm of all the possibilities for you to save up for these trips. Normally, your buying cycle, you're looking at anywhere from 9 to a year and a half when it comes to looking and finding that perfect itinerary. But certainly right now, as far as Quark is concerned, we start our itineraries. So we've paused basically 2 operations. We've paused our Antarctic operation at the beginning of COVID in the last itinerary. We completely canceled the Arctic season, and then we decided to do the same for the Antarctica season. So knowing that everything that's going on, we went in and said, you know what, we're a privately held company. We're not, we don't have to report to Wall Street as far as our stockholders and things like that. So it gives us flexibility to make the right decision. So Quark is financially stable. So your investment is good with us. And we decided, for health and safety, it's better for us to start operations in May. I think that by May of next year, things are going to be looking a little more different. We hope that that's the case. I have a feeling it will be the case. But again, even though you're spending a little bit more, it's a once in a lifetime trip that you want to take. And now
Think about it. A lot of people are spending 10,000 or 12,000 in Europe. It's really just maybe saying like, oh, I'm going to take a year off of what I'd usually do, or, and put it towards this. I like that you say it's not unattainable for people if
That's
it's
correct.
something they want to do, because I feel like if this is something that you value and it's something you want to check off, and for me, I look at those pictures, I'm like, it's just non-negotiable. I have to go both places.
Honestly, it's the closest to nature, basically undisturbed nature that you'll find anywhere in the world. I mean, some of your experiences in Africa and maybe in the Galapagos come close, but you're going to the end of the world, and basically because it's managed so the policies and the managing of these areas are so stringent. You're not going to see any ship traffic. It's not like you're getting to let's say Nice with 5 other ships and have 10,000 people arriving in Nice. Here there's only 1 ship per landing spot. So every once in a while you might see a ship crossing, but otherwise it's just you and nature and your fellow guests on board experiencing this together. And it really takes you back to the days of when cruising started, that you would sit down for dinner, you would have a meaningful conversation, you would build camaraderie with other guests on board from other regions of the world or other parts of the United States. And it's going back to the old time way of cruising, which it's that relationship and sharing some incredible experience with other people makes it part of the special or the intriguing part of traveling with other explorers, or soon to be explorers.
Question, because this seems to be typically the question that I'm getting right now is, Quark going to be offering any, I mean, everybody thinks because of COVID, prices are super duper reduced, where I feel like prices are not super duper reduced because we have to make up for all the losses that we've had. But, there's 2 sides to that. Is Quark going to be coming out with any like entry level, just amazing prices, or no, will they stay where they're at?
Actually, pre-COVID, we realized that there was an opportunity for people that are trying to just kind of scratch the surface and get that first experience of an expedition trip. We already had planned for a entry-level trip, which is that trip that I told you up in the Canadian Arctic, which gives you experience of you in the Arctic, like anywhere in the Arctic. Mm-hmm. Those trips tend to be a little shorter, and so they're more affordable. We're going to have trips in this, in that 7 to 8 day range that will be a little more affordable. And most of the trips right now, we have an early booking discount in certain cases up to 20% for you to book, and then a reduced deposit as well. And so, it's a little more affordable. You're booking it further out. And so you're going to have some time to do the research, put down your deposit, and then little by little you can, I know that partners now, one of the things that I see travel partners doing is basically clients are now paying on a monthly basis or bi-monthly or whatever the case is. And so, it'll give you time to think, deposit, hold the deposit, and then, little by little you'll pay off your payment if you want to go little by little. Otherwise, you can put down your deposit and your final payment won't be until, roughly 180 days out.
Until you go. Okay. Well, today you guys have had Carlos Ramirez with us from Quark Expeditions, and he is simply amazing. He's all things Arctic, all things Antarctica. And so we want to get you guys thinking about how you can become more adventurous. These are definitely the hottest products we have on the market right now. So thanks for joining us. Catch us over at Trips and Ships Luxury Travel, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.